let's get into what we have. We have some of that Jasmy Qnt for you. Max is doing it again. Why does Max keep doing this? Why wouldn't I do it? So here is what I'm going to show you here in a bit. All right, so it's not going to start right off with the Qnt. We're going to do it with the Jasmy first. I want to give a shout out to both two individuals. For one, NeoXTricks for the Jasmy research. And then on top of that, the one and only Quant Papa. For the purposes of tonight, we will be covering Jasmy and Qnt once again in regards to this connection. But before we get into that, we're going to cover some things in regards to some key findings for Jasmy. So I just want to advise that through this outline, which is not going to be super, super long, we are going to first cover some of the research and then tie some of the other things in. When we get to the Qnt part, you will see up here that icon changed to Qnt. All right, so here it is basically. And NeoXTricks gets really, really into this. So let's go ahead and pull this up. And if anything, try to blow it up a little bit. So he goes on to mention that in 2015, here is an official notice regarding the acquisition of program for a smartphone application copyright by SourceNext and Bijit Japan, whose director, which is Kazumasa Sato, KDDI, SoftBank, NTT, Docomo, which is the national company's relationship. He says, so he concludes that Jasmy will necessarily have partnerships like this concerning its technology or other services with various companies which are Bijit's partners or clients. Now, we continuously cover some of those clients and partnerships with Bijit. One of the key ones that obviously stands out is Google, right? But you got to keep in mind, Bijit, still, Kazumasa Sato, Kunitaki Ando, Jasmy, Sato, Ando. This last one is an offshore IT development company for DX. Without being official, Jasmy is necessarily surrounded by Bijit. It's still a fact. Now, what is he talking about here? I've gone ahead and chose to blow this up for you. And in the process of doing so, we are going to get it nice and even for you. Here's the document. It dates back all the way to October 28th of 2015. Now, I'm going to blow this up a little bit more so you can see it. So on this one, and maybe I could just blow it up even that much more. Yeah, let's just do this for a second. Made it too big, didn't I? All right. So you will see here, October 25th, 2015, the FASF, and it goes in to mention, notice regarding the acquisition of program copyright for the smartphone app. I want you to pay attention to this. Shoe convenience tools. Max, this is a nothing burger. It's not a nothing burger. We'd like to inform you that on October 27th, 2015, we concluded an agreement to acquire the program copyright as shown below. You know how many times we reference, for instance, patents and copyrights here? I want to state this. I want to share this with you. The reason for acquisition says our company has previously partnered with Bijit to develop the smartphone app Show Convenient Tools, which includes KDDI Corporation's SmartPass. What do we know about Jasmy lately? The smart wallet. What about the smart chain coming up? Again, guys, the writing is on the wall. SoftBank's Mobile Corp, AppPass, and NTT Docomo Inc. have provided great content to all three major domestic carriers. By acquiring the program copyright for this app, we'll be able to ensure a stable supply of products and make agile improvements. We believe this will lead to further expansion of products, or I should say profits. Now look at number 2. And this might be hard to see because, I mean, you got to keep in mind you might be on your couch, your phone, and so on. And I respect that. I try to make it as big as I could without, having to go back and forth horizontally. But I'm going to get into this next part. Let's draw your attention to where it says details of just that, those acquired assets. Android app. Come on, man. You know how many times Hara has given us just little, I guess you could say, teasers? Some people don't like that. Some people don't like the idea that he gives these teasers. Think about why he gives the teasers, guys. Probably because of NDA. Let's be honest. Is Jasmine the only ones that have to, or they can't live under the rule of NDA? No, many different crypto projects and different companies have NDAs. So it says plain as day, details of the assets, Android app, super convenience tools. What does Hara always reference? He calls it the super wallet, right? Now we're going to super NFTs, super chain, layer 2 AI, blockchain solution, right? But the writing is all on the wall, consistently references some of this stuff. So you have the overview of the acquired copyright. You have the head. Who's the head? It's Bijit. Where's the office location? Well, it's in Tokyo. Okay. How much? 242.1 million yen. I mean, we convert that to American dollars. I mean, still up there. Who's the director, Max? Where's the Jasmy plug? The Jasmy plug's always been Bijit. Well, I want to see somebody's name. Director and president? Who? Kazumasa Sato. Like, are we not paying attention to this? Look at this. Representative capital measure, development, package software development, human resource recruitment. Goes more into some of this. I think actually it doesn't. Sorry about that. But sorry. Bottom part. Acquire intellectual property rights. Continually improving our products, increasing customer satisfaction. Right. Improving the products, keeping true to the white paper. Have people forgotten about that? It's not that people forgotten about it, Max. It's that people simply don't read the white paper. Let's just be real. Most of us don't do that. That's no knock on anybody, but most people don't do that. Why are people getting so emotional when it comes to Jasmine? Oh, I don't like migrations. Well, sorry. That's no knock on anybody, but if you read the white paper, they're keeping towards their promise. That's the bottom line. But the connections here. Now, back to NeoXTrix. And by all means, give him a follow at Bana A17. He deserves your follow. So he goes into detail about Sato, Kazumasa Sato. And basically, it's said in this interview, some of these things you're about to see, but when we blow this up, it's going to confirm to you that everything that like NeoXTrix was talking about, and that is, let me just see if you can see this all right, and that is basically how he assumed that we were able to assert that these patents were basically just there. Like, these patents are a real thing. It says Jasmine will be able to browse Hyperledger Fabric. How many times did I cover that? I covered the whole deep dive about Fabric at least 2 or 3 times. I gave you the example of Hyperledger Besu. I give you some other examples even when it came to Quant and Overledger 2.0 update back in, March, April 2022 roughly, and how they had interoperability and the upgrade to basically allow for Fabric and that whole consortium of Besu, all that stuff, right? Awesome stuff. Even showed you the whole thing of Soramitsu with Japan, how Soramitsu uses ISO TC307, the Quant network standard, right? So that's all big stuff. I'm glad that NeoXTrix is also re-referencing this. So why Fabric? Well, it's open source blockchain consortium. Jasmine will connect to public-private consortium blockchain through interoperability. Now, on the surface, we know that Jasmine, of course, is going to this layer 2 with Optimism, that roll up from Ethereum, that's what Optimism does, right? And we did that previous deep dive. We know that, we had that Web3 cloud solution when it comes to specifically, Jasmine with, Polkadot, right? Another thing for scaling and so on. And of course, that's with Polkadot. So we compare those two things. But look at this for a second. NeoXTrix goes into some of the key highlights that you should look more into here. And let me just pull that out for a second as well. It says, plain as day, and I'm sure it's nice and big on the screen for you. that although SG, as in the Smart Guardian, and SKC, which is Secure Knowledge Communicator, are patent pending proprietary technologies, the blockchain tech used in the Jasmy Internet of Things platform is a consortium type that utilizes open source. How many times did you see that even with reference with Quant? I'm just saying, and I'll get to that point here in a bit. With the stance of constantly adopting the latest blockchain technology and optimizing as a service, the differentiating elements of the Jasmy IoT platform are probably right. The SKC, Smart Knowledge Communicator, and also SG Smart Guardian. President Sato says, quote, in the early days of blockchain, the market was dominated by the idea of differentiating the blockchain engine itself, but as technology development progressed, functional differences have been smaller and interoperability, right, has diminished. And it has become possible to connect different blockchains smoothly. I just want you to think about this. You're already seeing how I'm going to do this, but I actually do have some solid information. And I kind of shared a little bit of it the other day when Will Fix was here, but I want to do a proper outline with you guys tonight. It is no longer so important which blockchain to use, and the key is to create a system that makes it easier to utilize blockchain for specific solutions. This is what I want to achieve the most, for instance, with Jasmy. It says ask Jasmy. That's just an interpretation. But with Jasmy, okay? Now, let's jump over to this next screen. So, getting into this, let's share this. Here's the whole thing with Quant. So now let's pull up the icon for Quant. All right. Boom. So on this, sorry, I didn't want to cough into the mic. On this, how many times over the last almost 2 years now, whether it's XRP or QNT and so on, we talk about plugging just that, the DLT, distributed ledger technology, into the existing plumbing. Whether you hold Jasmy or QNT, still open your eyes to this. We're all learning. Let's learn a little bit. The plumbing. Let's start off with DLT. You see that this connects, for instance, to even the external DLT platforms such as securities trade. Now, you did hear Larry Fink of BlackRock talk specifically about how we will tokenize, securities. We'll tokenize what? Bonds. Boom, bonds. Have you seen my deep dive where I talk about tokenizing equity? Have you listened to Will Fix when he talks about RWA, right? Real world assets being tokenized. He gave you that example of Lofty. He said, Max, I was able to buy on the Lofty platform, invest like $50 into a particular commercial property. That's not the exact quote, but into a property. It owned a sliver of that, right? That's tokenization. Max, can you give me another example about tokenization? Well, there's countless examples. What about what we got right now in regards to BTC? You can't afford a full BTC, so you do what? You buy a sliver into BTC. Most people, that's what they're doing. That's why BTC consistently has that value. It's all those little slivers. But there's people that own the full shebang of BTC, do they not? You should look at some of these examples in the same light. And what I mean by that is when we talk about external DLT-based platforms, the security trade side of things, back to the Will Fix example, right? Will Fix bought $50 worth towards that overall property. How many other people also bought a sliver towards that overall property? You got to keep in mind that. How much money in regards to the tokenization of this contributes to the overall landscape of whatever value of that property is. So let's just say hypothetically that property was worth $500,000. I don't know if that's what it was. Let's just use this example. So Will Fix bought $50 towards a $500,000 home, for instance. Okay. What about people with BTC? They buy a sliver, right? Like $50 towards a what? A 30,000 BTC. Do you see the example of what we're using here? So DLT to even HQLAX. If you want to get caught up on that, watch some of the deep dives. They're in the recorded video section for a reason. How about DLT2, for instance? Cobalt, Fintium, that's the trade sector. Some people say, well, then that's XDC and so on. Right. Make sure you have some XDC, not financial advice. How about the whole thing of ensuring free flow? Oh, I see what Max is doing. Yeah. It literally says it to you guys. Guys, I'm being honest. It says to you guys in subliminal messages. It's not conspiracy, but when you look more into it, it says it literally plain as day in subliminal messages. Free flow. What has Japan got going on for it? Data, free flow with trust. You ever wonder why they name it that? They name it that because this shows you, for example, how this plugs into the DLT existing plumbing. So with DLT, as in Quant's Overledger, and we'll get more into that outline, it shows you how you can provide that free flow, or in this case, that data free flow with trust, and how that liquidity can avoid fragmentation also outside of what RTGS as a real-time gross settlements. Opening hours. It says, would it not be better to link AS services to the CLM module and make liquidity management as such as independent from RTGS? Now, if I lost you and this seems Greek to you, I want you to take this away. I got to make that connection even to the newcomers. Jasmy has entered into finance democracy, has it not? It has. Now, we could talk about IoT all day long, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's an awesome industry to be in. But we need to get something solid in regards to Jasmy with this whole thing of entering into finance democracy. Let's not ignore that. Let's embrace that. Let's talk about that. So, how can you have this whole thing, a liquidity management such as independent from the real-time gross settlements? Well, gives you other examples. But this plumbing logic, and I love the idea that Quant Papa highlighted this, says it doesn't make sense to connect your brand new glass fiber cable connection to your house, for example. This is just a layman's example. Into the existing old coax network outside, right? Yeah, why would you do that? That's like counterintuitive. But when we get into this, look what it says here. The risk of fragmentation and complexity of cross-currency interoperability, because we have talked about Jasmy when it comes to finance democracy. You do see the references, even in the past, which we just confirmed, the whole thing, Kazumasa Sato, sometimes those names get kind of messed up with Ando, talking about interoperability, talking about, some of these old patents, some of them are pending, some of them are done. Why did they set up all this stuff years ago? Think about it for a second. So you have this breakdown, and let me show you this. I know nothing against Quant Pop. I love them, but some of the pictures are kind of like sometimes a little bit blurry because he takes a picture with his phone or whatever, and it's okay. We do appreciate the content, right? Big up to Quant Pop. But the risk and fragmentation and complexity of cross-currency interoperability. Look at how this is all broke down, what it connects to, and so on. Securities trade, FX trade, for instance, Finium. We talked about it with Quant. Digital assets, DBS digital assets, trade finance, Go, and Contour. Look at the breakdown. Cross-currency interoperability becomes complex. Sounds crazy. But I know it's so hard for you to see this, and maybe I come out of the frame on this one. Yeah, I will come out of the frame on this one. So let me take this off for a second. I want you to see this. I want to see the focus. And even if we don't have a lot of people watch tonight, we'll shot this up later for more people can see this. But what you will see here on the diagram is the Bank of Japan. Well, how do we get the Quant connection too? Well, we already have it, but just to kind of pound it home even more, how about the Bank of England? How about the Bank of Canada? So you got Bank of England, Bank of Canada, Bank of Japan. Is the United States part of the mix? Yeah, there is. And when I do another outline in the future, we're going to talk about the digital dollar. I need to really get with that, cover that before other people cover that. And if other people do, it's okay too. Anyway, so the United States sits at the table. How do they sit at the table? Well, you had the Federal Reserve of, I believe, New York, for instance, right? And we talked about in the past how they're working with Project Hamilton, right? We confirmed that a long time ago. I got a lot of criticism about that, and then we found out that it didn't be true. So you have Project Hamilton, MIT. You have the New York Federal Reserve, you have Quant network, right? And that ended up being like a real thing. But again, guys, Bank of Japan, digital assets, it also connects to what? It connects to all this. Security trade, bonds, equity, right? That's one of your key takeaways. How about how CLM MCA connects to real-time gross settlements, even Target 2. Remember Target 2 with Europe? Now we can talk about your SWIFT system, Target 2 with Europe. How about TIPS? So all of this is all interoperable. Now, getting more into this, I want to show you guys this. Let me jump to it. I know I'm out of the screen, but the emphasis is not on my mug. It's on the material. Look what it says here, guys. You see, plain as day, DLT settlement platform. Who are some of the platforms? Well, look what it says. A cross-currency DLT layer for the settlement in central bank money makes sense. You have a distributed model that would enhance settlement efficiency, but integrated interoperable model could work as well. TIPS being connected to, for instance, the Target 2, for instance, real-time gross settlements, kick it on over to CLM MCA. And you even have that picture, and maybe you don't recognize that. That's in regards to a European CBDC, right, with the euro and so on. Look at all these currencies for the DLT settlement platform. Bank of England. So we already know the Quant connection with that. Bank of Canada. But the key takeaway for you is the Bank of Japan. Why is Max putting focus on that? Because we already have mentioned for numerous months now, this whole thing of, and I'll come back into the frame, this whole thing of Japanese yen denominated stablecoins. In my opinion, this is proof that with interoperability, with why Quant, remember we covered this, guys. I mean, I know there's a lot of newcomers and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Max. A few months back, we talked about Quant Network. They went to Japan. We confirmed that. There was a video I did. It's on, again, on the old channel, but it talks about QNT, Jasmy, XDC. Now, of course, there's not an XDC thing going on with Jasmy, but the point was XDC SBI Japan, who is the big honcho for SBI Japan, Genki Oda. JVCA, Genki Oda. BitPoint, Genki Oda. BitPoint heavily invested into Jasmy, Genki Oda. Decision makers, right? But Jasmy is entering into finance democracy, are they not? Yes, they are. So can we give examples about how Jasmy, for instance, with Quant's interoperability on pairings, all right? Because we have talked about pairings. People criticize and say, there has never been an announcement about Quant in Jasmy. There doesn't need to be an announcement. Just like there's never an official announcement when it comes to Quant in JP Morgan. But when you look more into it, you don't even have to confirm the NDAs. You just simply need to take more of the deeper dives. And I provide that for you. That's something I do. But the key takeaway is when you dive more into it, you see like, oh my gosh, there is some connections there. Yes, there's some connections here. I'm just going to go ahead and state this. You see how Quant Network has positioned itself for what? Volume. How is Jasmy going to position themselves for volume? The answer has always been Japanese yen denominated stablecoins. So we point out the whole thing of SoftBank. We point out the whole thing with MUFG. We tied in a lot of these things about the local banks of Japan and these pairings and contributing to Society 5.0 and how your personal data locker, that particular token, how it ties into like the DD coin, data democracy coin, and then that is represented through, for instance, contributing to the society, get on a bullet train and stuff like that. But there'll be other instances, and if you're lost on this, we talk about, for instance, there's a ban currently, but it will be lifted. Hopefully, it gets finally lifted. Sometime in 2024. It was supposed to happen this year, but it didn't. But it's for Tether and it's for Circle. And I think with proper regulations, that finally gets lifted. Right. So that means the foreign market, the US market, other markets, and so on. Pairings create volume. Volume creates money. Money creates a lot of things that we should see as far as more money coming into Jasmine. Is that such a bad thing? But we are talking about Japan. I think that Quant has positioned themselves to not specifically mention just plain Jasmine. They don't need to. The point is, they enable a lot of volume by what they have here with this DLT settlement platform. Now, we're going to jump more into this and why it's so important, because if you have MUFG, you have SoftBank, which is hugely invested into Bajit and Jasmy, right? Even Sony. You can see how this triggers, kind of like when you go to an exchange and you see, for instance, Mike Cornwell was talking about Elk. So on Elk Finance, you have all these things that create interoperability as far as pairings. Elk combined with XRP, I don't know if that still exists, but like Elk combined with Tether, Elk combined with Doge, pairings, those are the enablers. What about enabling Japan through Japanese yen denominated stablecoins? We've given so many examples about that. You're more than welcome to look more into it for yourself. I think this is a big, big deal. Let's get into why it is such a big deal. So I'm going to give you some examples. Thank you again to Quant Papa. And on this particular one, it is referenced now right here in this month. And it talks about 2023, October 2023, Commerce Bank, ECB, current exploration of what? Wholesale CBDCs. I wish I could make this a little bit bigger, but I can't. It talks about all this exploration, how, it's likely going to take some time for it to go live. Think about to go live. What's the big dates that we're looking for? November 2025. I get criticism about, stop mention dates. They're such nothing burgers. And then, on Will Fix's channel, I might put it on my channel as well. It talks about ISO 222 right from the Swift site, right? And it doesn't say flip with a swish, but what it says, a flow, right? All at once. That's flip of the switch, okay? Enabling all this liquid assets, if you will, to flow. And again, back to the whole thing of data-free flow with trust, right? But taking time for this to all go live, again, I feel as though November 2025 is the big deal, right? Because that's full implementation. I understand that there's a thing coming up maybe next month, right? And that's worth pointing out. It says private solutions, including those that will function under regulatory approval of the ECB, are ready to go live and serve the needs of the innovative solutions that they're already making in regards to inroads in the market. ECB's policy is already offering the private sector an option to use an AS Procedure D accounts to provide a pre-funded cash on ledger solution. This whole thing about, for instance, the current phase of these trials focuses on 3 technology options. And let's get you to this. So these solutions are a mix of long-term strategic solutions and bridge solutions. Talks about limitations of trigger solutions limited to RTGS, real-time gross settlements, in this particular phase, which is phase 2. I want you to think about this for a second. Phase 2. Why is Max mentioning this? Think about it. Phase 1 would have been what was supposed to happen late 2022 with ISO 222. What did we see get kicked down the road? Right. We saw ISO 222 got delayed to go live in March of 2022. What about this whole thing of more of the implementation in November? Right. Is November the phase 2? I think it is, because it's more of, it's just saying, hey, guys, we're live and we're testing. Now it's more of we're live and we are going to implement some of this stuff. So that checks out. It talks about, for instance, the function of supervision by central banks and relevant regulatory authorities. I want to talk about that for a second. So with the Bank of International Settlements, you have supervision by who? Banque de France. They're the oversight. All right. Who is the oversight in regards to Japan? Right? Well, the oversight for Japan technically would be your Genki Odas, right? because he's part of SBI Japan. And he's also a policy / decision maker for regulation for the FSA and the JVCEA. But this whole notion that when people say, Jasmy scam, no, they're already regulatory compliant. They're the first. Did you make that connection? Getting more into this, we will confirm some more things that, like it says here, I know it's tiny, this whole thing will provide interoperability across other currency regimes, unlike existing real-time gross settlements. Think about that for a second. Interoperability through this new thing. What is that new thing? Well, it's the Quant Overledger. Overledger in itself enables these bridges, if you will, enables yen denominated stablecoins and the pairings and the whole Jasmy thing. It's not just, for example, Jasmy. Obviously, we know there's other ones out there, but that really does help Jasmy, does it not? Pairings create volume. Volume, just as the saying goes, more people buying one thing makes value. You know what I mean? Like if I'm at a grocery store and I have only one product, right? I only make it available to one person that comes and buys it. No, that's ridiculous. What if there was products at the grocery store? They're like, well, we don't, on this product, we don't accept cash, but we only accept, I don't know, let's just call it like Diners Club. You can only buy this 2-liter thing of soda with Diners Club. That means only people that have Diners Club could buy that. That would be ridiculous, right? Right. So we need to have cash or currency enablers to buy more things. Again, that's just an example. So do we have that here? Yes, we have that here. So it goes on to mention this whole thing of a monetary stability as provided by the central banks, right? There has to be some kind of stable value in regards to that. Japan doesn't want to get involved in this at all. They made it clear because it can't be volatile. Also, how about the whole thing with FTX? I know I'm kind of bouncing around, but Japan made their people whole in regards to FTX. Did the United States do that? No, they didn't. How about this for a second? Provide settlement asset to a new emerging tokenized solutions. Again, think about the whole thing with Overledger. Provide payment option to serve the needs of corporate clients via commercial banks and FMIs to their new technology use cases. Talks about ECB's policy limits to use DVP settlement. What are some of the main benefits of a wholesale CBDC in cross currency and how that will be enabled? How there will be initiative focused on a single currency at the moment. What about Japan? What about some of those single currency? Well, yen. Yeah, yen. Okay. But what about yen with the pairings? And we have seen those confirmed pairings. So are we too far off with that? Interoperability solutions in envision trial design. Look at this for a second. Talks about, for instance, the bank accounts. Talks about, for instance, target twos. I'm not going to get into all that, but it gives examples, if you look more into it, about how a bank A wallet goes to bank B wallet. Think about the Jasmy super wallet. This bottom part, practical implications for the treasury. And I will read most of this. This is good stuff. And thank you to Quant for this. It says, we need to avoid fragmentation of liquidity and allow for a netting effect in the structure of the infrastructure in an environment where we expect multiple blockchain platforms to emerge for various business needs. Do we not see Jasmy emerging, right, with this layer 2? We definitely see that. Don't look at it from the perspective of only IoT. They're positioning themselves also for finance. What about that friction? Lewis Jackson's always talking about things need to be frictionless. Friction between monetary policy, applied value, and limiting opening hours for real-time gross settlements services demand 24/7 processing. Right, can't be Monday through Friday anymore. The bank system is dead. Value date differences and no ability to fund or provide working capital solutions. Use pre-funded buffers which need to be held overnight. What if the required pre-funding exceeds minimum reserve holdings? Right, we got to have scalability. talks about this whole thing about, for instance, is this gonna fix the whole thing of to have a central place for pools of liquidity to cross various channels? I want you to think about this and how we have free flow liquidity across 24/7 enabled services. Again, this might seem Greek to you, but the whole point is data free flow with trust. Why did myself, IC Amphibian, Dip Metaverse, the whole Jasmy army of research enthusiasts, if you will, talk about data free flow with trust so much? Why is, you know, Tara Kono going all over the world to preach and share the research of DFFT so much? And why is the United States copying the template of DFFT for our regulatory framework? Come on, guys. Pay attention to this stuff, because if you know what you have and you know why you hold it, then it paints the picture of, okay, I can see the outcome of this. I can kind of get it now. I know some stuff is a little Greek. This last part, separate DCA might not be the best choice here with the current T2 setup, but you can understand how you have the increase of direct participation, corresponding banks, and a demand for 24/7 real-time reality, or real-time, reality, and how that will kick in to require more liquidity as netting effect will decrease as fragmentation will increase with more direct participation. Right. Yen denominated stable coins. So, not just SoftBank, some other banks in Japan. And this is not even just Japan. But of course, we put focus on that because of Jasmy. I'm talking about the DLT enablers. Overledger is really going to shine this department. They recognize that Japan ranks number 3 in the world when it comes to GDP power rankings, right behind China and right behind the United States. Now, let me show you some more examples about this. So on this one, we have these examples. Here's figure 4, synchronization model. How's this all broken down? Well, it may seem kind of Greek, but this is plain as day. How do you have an asset ledger send things, for instance, over to an operator, or how operator sends it to end users? I mean, it's not that hard. Bank A, real-time gross settlements, kicks it down to Bank B. Literally looking at it from the case of, can we have money flow of, SBI Japan? Can we have money flow of SoftBank to MUFG? Yes. How's it going to be done? Real-time gross settlements. How's that all work with DLT? We already gave you the example on the previous slide. How's that going to go to end users? Again, it's not that hard, but you see the breakdown. Getting more into this to make it more in layman's terms, just in case we did lose you. Were you aware that back during 2018, the bank, for instance, that was engaged with financial institutions, infrastructures, trade bodies, policymakers, and fintech firms on securitization, the feedbacks received suggested that there could be demand and use cases for functionality over the lifetime of the renewed real-time gross settlement service. These use cases would include, and here's some examples, housing transactions. The combination of new technology and access to the real-time gross settlements via synchronization has a potential to make the payment, land registration, this is when we're talking about RWAs, real world assets, right? And stamp duty process involved in house purchase quicker and more efficient. Again, back to the whole thing what Will Fix was talking about with Lofty, right? House movers can find moving day a particular challenge, with parties often having to wait until the late afternoon for confirmation of funds have been received. It is argued that these delays can cost consumers millions in additional fees to removal firms. Who's been talking about this for a year and a half or more, or almost 2 years? This is ISO 222. And why that's so big? Because, again, when you have circumstances of parties having to wait until late in the afternoon for confirmation that funds have received, we can even apply that to the banks. We do apply that to the banks. The guy in Greece, the Bank of Greece sending cross-border payments to the Bank of South Korea, or how about obviously to Japan? Different language, right? Compared to Greece. You have to have ISO 222 because it helps the banks simply like realize, hey, this is a garbled up message. We need to be able to have something that's much more sufficient than Swift. We understand Swift is upgrading, right? Okay, so again, the old Swift has to be an upgrade. Boom, ISO 222, that new upgrade. Now, I'm not saying that Jasmy is ISO 222 compliant, but again, are you missing the point here? The point is Quant's Overledger with ISO TC307 becomes that enabler by making that interoperability for those banks. And we saw in the diagram for the Japanese yen. And it even references what? The Bank of Japan. How about corporate transactions, right? Well, you have corporate transactions that can involve significant coordination efforts and funds that be required to be positioned days in advance. Synchronization might offer parties a reduction in some of the manual effort and liquidity costs involved, as well as reducing the risk profile of these transactions. Now, this last part, because we talk about Quant and also Jasmy, how about cross-border payments? How does Jasmy, for instance, jump into this, which sounds nuts. I mean, I think for most people, they're just like, you got to be kidding me. Jasmy for cross-border payments? Give me a break. I'm going to go with like Ripple and so on. But it says here, a domestic payment. Think about this for a second, because Jasmy is focusing on those domestic banks. Do you see how I did that? And how it could be executed in real time. But a cross-border transaction could take 2 or 3 days and cost an average 10 times more than a domestic payment, right? So how do we have a solution? There could be scope working with other national RTGS services. Oh, so we work with Quant's Overledger. And Quant's Overledger works with the Bank of England. And the Bank of England now has interoperability with who? The Bank of Japan. Oh my God, Max, how did you figure that out? I've studied. I look into some of this stuff. It doesn't have to say Quant and Jasmy direct partnership. My God, guys, I'm just telling you, that's no disrespect to our family of watchers and so on. All you got to do is make the connections. That's why I was giving you a diagram and seeing how this is connected to this, that's connected to that. This enables this to have interoperability with that. That's all it is. Don't overthink it. Now, look what it says. I'll read it again. A domestic payment can be executed in real time, but a cross-border transaction could take 2 to 3 days and cost an average of 10 times more than a domestic payment. There could be scope working with other national RTGS services to improve their bank cross-border payments by using synchronization to achieve simultaneous settlement across currencies. Hence the yen, the digital euro, digital pound, all interoperable through what? The freaking Overledger. A little bit more about this. All right. I know this is good. For those who are staying up and watching this, hats off to you guys. Like, I'll chop this up and obviously we'll reach a broader base. Look at this. Shout out to Quant Pop again. He probably didn't even realize I tied in the whole thing with Jasmine, but that's okay. Synchronization linking real-time gross settlements to other ledgers. Okay, now I see where Max is going with this. Right. Consultation questions. Consultation. What's Jasmine also providing nowadays? Consultation what? Services. Do you see all the subliminal messages given? Now, some people don't like that. I don't like it when Harvard does that. Call it what you want. I'm trying to provide you information to confirm things. We propose to create a generic interface into RTGS, which would allow a wider range of ledgers to connect to real-time gross settlements to synchronize transactions. A little bit more about this. I know it's a lot, but we'll wrap it up here soon. And again, you got to give, when you guys see Quant Papa in the comments, always give him love and respect, because you know what? He does this all for free, and he's just a proponent. He wants to help educate people about this just as much as I do. And he's just an awesome guy. I love that guy. How about this? Flexible and innovative services for our users. Real-time gross settlements already provide settlement services for a variety of payment systems. Platforms like Crest, CLS, Benefit, Remember at the very beginning of the slide, we showed CLS. I don't know if you guys were wondering about that. But those benefit from close integration with real-time gross settlements to eliminate risk for securities and FX transactions. FX transactions. What about when we have some of the FX unbanned? Oh, I know where you're going with that, Max. Yes, Tether, Circle. So when they come back in the mix, this allows that to be those risks to be eliminated for those that would be considered foreign, right? And it literally mentions by name foreign stable coins, as in Tether and Circle, USDT, USDC. However, it says there are multiple areas where we are looking to broaden our service provision, and here's the key highlights. Boom, boil it, mash it, stick in the stew. We see potential in closer integration between real-time gross summits and other ledgers. This could mean linking RTGS with new digital asset platforms. This can involve closer links to RTGS systems or in other currencies. Again, guys, the yen, to transmit cross-border payments or support smooth liquidity management. We propose developing a new synchronization interface to enable this. It says the new settlement engine will already have no technical barriers to operating on a near 24/7 basis in the future. Quant doesn't have those technical barriers at all. We already share that numerous times. Blockchain agnostic, connects to literally anything. Based on your feedback, the bank will work with the industry to consider when and how to extend the operating hours of RTGS. Do we not see that already happening before our eyes? Do we not see, for instance, excuse me, do we not see how Gilbert Verdian is going to this, was it London blockchain conference? Who is he sharing the table with, right? The head honcho of R3. Remember I talked about it? What about the Bank of England? Right, we talked about some of these things. So there's that. So they got this whole thing of proposing a new service and how it's going to expand the range of ways to generate intraday liquidity. All right. Before we wrap it up, here's the final one. States, plain as day, foundations for the future. Our ambitions do not stop here. Good. I'm glad they don't, right? We will utilize the modular and flexible design to deliver the third phase of benefits by renewing the real-time gross settlements at the heart of the RTGS, is ability to support safe and efficient settlement in central bank money. Who is settling central bank money as we speak? Who is tokenizing CBDCs as we speak? Quant Network. How do we confirm that, Max? We have confirmed it on enough videos, my friend, right? Talking about this whole thing of Bank of International Settlements, Bank of England. What about the whole thing with LACchain, right? CBDCs for Latin America. But at the heart of the RTGS is the ability to support safe and efficient settlement in central bank money. Our vision is also encapsulates RTGS acting as an open platform for change and innovation. What's an open, seamless, and also future-proof platform? Quant's Overledger. Following the feedback of the 2022 consultation on the future roadmap for RTGS, we are prioritizing work to assess several innovative features. Top of the list are new ways to connect RTGS, a synchronization interface to connect RTGS with other ledgers, and extended RTGS operating hours. If implemented, they will achieve even higher degrees of resilience and facilitate industry's innovation and competition. They will be key to helping us deliver wholesale enhanced digital money. Now, in closing about this, I want you to think about this for a second. We know with the traditional banking system that basically speaking, you do have those hours, the Monday through Fridays, and typically speaking from 9 a.m. to 5. Some banks, I've seen in the past, like Wells Fargo, they don't do it anymore at my local grocery store, but it used to close at 7 o'clock. But typically speaking, it's 9 to 5. Now, one thing that's beautiful about crypto, as we know, is it's on 24/7. Is the stock market on 24/7? No, it is not. right? So you see the shift towards this new system, even shown in these examples that I should say we, Quant Papa, right? Big up to Quant Papa, that we provided you tonight. Right. Crypto, the beautiful thing about it is on 24/7. So now you even see how we tie that in. 24/7 systems create constant money flows. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in regards to this. I think this is huge, not only for Quant, but now it kind of confirms and solidifies why I believe, and it's just my opinion, right? Some people say I'm wrong, and it's okay. But for me, this confirms my opinion because we also tie in what Quant Papa shared in regards to why Quant Network put their stamp or their stake into Japan. I'm big up on Quant. I'm big up on Jasmy. And with that said, guys, I mean, I can't thank you guys enough. I think all this is worth paying attention to. And I will continue to cover the likes of Quant and Jasmy and see how this is all interoperable and who's talking to who or what system's talking to what and why we should pay attention to that. There's a lot of FUD when it comes to Jasmy. It's what comes with the territory. But you know what? Even Quant gets a lot of FUD too. Don't get fudded out of your future generational wealth. I'm rooting for you to make it just as much as myself or anybody else. Quant Papa is rooting for you too. We have a lot of conversations, direct messages and so on. All we want to do is help educate people about some of this stuff. It's part of our passion. And is that such a bad thing? I don't think it is. So with that said, that's going to conclude our coverage tonight in regards to all of this. Jasmine Quant, once again. Anyway, please smash the like if you appreciate the content. Make sure you sub and hit that bell notification. If you enjoy a live show, we have shows every day of the week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific here at Maximus Crypto, and even dual streamed over at Will Fix. Give him a follow as well over at his station channel. It's just called Will Space Fix. He covers XRP quite a bit, but he's also starting to cover other things, QNT, Stellar, some of the other things. He's a big proponent of Jasmy. But there it is, guys. Thank you so much and appreciate you.